Hello and welcome to the Abuse and Neglect Prevention Critical Incident and Human Rights Annual Recertification Training. This is Module 5 that will discuss human rights. Please be prepared to adjust the volume on your computer to listen to this training. To enable closed captioning, press the CC button in the bottom left or right of your video display screen. This learning path contains multiple components in the form of videos and quizzes. To be marked complete for this training, you must complete all modules and pass all quizzes, in addition to completing the final attestation form and mandatory reporter sign-off. Training objectives. Learners will understand the importance of human rights in relation to the individuals served by DDS and private providers. Discuss respectful language and DDS self-advocate coordinators. And understand the role of a mandatory reporter and the expectations in their position with DDS or a DDS qualified provider. Before we begin, a reminder that you are a mandatory reporter. This is a requirement of your job at DDS and for every person providing supports to individuals funded by the department. Regardless of your title, you are a mandatory reporter. That means reporting abuse or neglect 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, not just when you're at work. It also means that you do not have to have proof. You may be a witness, you saw or heard it. Even if you suspect it, you should report it. And if you hear about it from someone else, you must report it. It is not an option to report suspected abuse or neglect. As a mandatory reporter, your failure to report suspected abuse or neglect can be reported as neglect itself and may lead to progressive discipline. Any and all types of discipline may be considered depending on the severity of the abuse or neglect that was not reported. To elaborate on the Connecticut General Statute 46A 11B, allegations should not be called in just because a supervisor tells an employee to do so or as means of covering one's own best interest. There must be reasonable cause to suspect abuse or neglect on part of the reporter. The reporter should be prepared to explain their reasonable cause to AID Central Intake and any other agencies as necessary as to why they think there was abuse or neglect. If you witness or suspect abuse or neglect, first you must stop it. Second, you must intervene and protect the victim. Then attain any necessary medical treatment. Support the victim. And last but not least, report and document. Human rights is a big part of preventing abuse and neglect and ensuring the individuals that the department supports receives the respect they deserve. When you think about living the mission, all the words in the photo encompass our mission, vision, and values we want each employee to encompass. When we think about human rights and the things that we all want for our life, it's important to remember disability rights, and the people we support want the same things that you and I do. It's not about the label someone has, it's about being a person. Let's take a closer look at disability rights and what that means by watching a short clip about a woman with a disability speaking out about her experiences and how she has been able to use that to create a voice for herself and her peers.
Since childhood, Judy Heumann has faced ableism, institutionally, socially, and personally. New York's public school system prevented her from enrolling, and she was often bullied or excluded by her own peers. After a lifetime of activism, she is finally seeing a shift in how people with disabilities are viewed and treated. Her book is called Being Human, an unrepentant memoir of a disability rights activist. And she's the star of tonight's Brief but Spectacular.
When I was 5 years old in Brooklyn, New York, on East 38th Street, my mother did what every other parent did when their kid was 5. She took me to school to register me. And this was in the early 1950s. There were no motorized wheelchairs, so she pushed me to school, and it wasn't accessible. She pulled me up the steps, and the principal said, I couldn't go to school because I was a fire hazard. I don't really know that there was an explanation. It just was. I think the average person, they see disability as a threat to not being able to do things as people have typically done them. And I think there's truth in that. But the question is it because one has a disability or because society itself has constructed itself in such a way because they haven't seen us? Discrimination against disabled people has existed from the beginning of time. And we're in a place right now where, because of other movements, civil rights movement, the women's movement, Black Lives Matter movement, etc., people are speaking up and out. One of the first pieces of legislation that the disability community really engaged in was getting regulations developed for a provision of law called Section 504. Section 504 says you can't discriminate against someone who has a disability if the entity is receiving money from the federal government. It was the first time that many of these young disabled people felt a part of something and really felt that they were making a difference, not only for their lives, but for the lives of many others. There is a shift, I believe, going on in our society where we're looking at race and gender, equality and disability as issues that we need to address, that diversity is something that makes our companies stronger, that diverse businesses provide better services for customers. I also am a very big believer that the disability rights community cannot stand on its own. We need to be working with all other movements, and we want all other movements to be inclusive of disabled people. If we are actively learning and working together, we can do things like make sure when housing is being built in our communities that it's accessible, not just for people who have physical disabilities today, but if you're going to have a physical disability tomorrow. I think having a disability really has allowed me to do and get in touch with so many things and opportunities that otherwise would not have happened. People look at us as the label of our disability. And it is a part of who we are, but it is not who we are. My name is Judy Human, and this is my brief but spectacular take on the disability rights movement.
Judy Human, so inspiring to every one of us. Thank you. And you can watch all of our brief but spectacular episodes at pbs.org/newshour/brief.
Think about this quote by Judy Human. People look at us as the label of our disability, and it is part of who we are, but is not who we are. The people supported by the department are much more than just people with disabilities. They are humans who have the same desires that we all do, to be respected and seen. The most important thing that humans want is respect. This is a huge part of disability and human rights. Respect is the overreaching right that we all deserve. Respect includes equality, safety, home, family, and privacy. Equality is the right to be treated as equal citizens. Safety, the right to be safe from abuse. Home and family is the right to be part of a family and to start one if they choose. Privacy is the right to privacy no matter where we live. Also, important to be treating people with respect is the words that we use. The DDS respectful language policy is required by all DDS staff and staff of DDS qualified providers. The respectful language policy requires us to use people first language. Respectful language emphasizes what we have in common rather than our differences. Respectful language identifies the individual for who they are, not just what their diagnosis is. Respectful language allows what is special and unique about each individual to shine. Respectful language replaces the term mental retardation with intellectual disability, unless clinically or medically necessary. Respectful language eliminates the R word and encourages referring to someone by their name. The Call Me by My Name campaign was started by DDS self-advocate coordinators in 2015 and promotes that each individual is referred to by their given name. This campaign works alongside the respectful language policy. Other goals of this campaign were to eliminate words and terms like client, patient, ward, handicapped, and the R word. Self-advocate coordinators are hired by DDS and are broken down by region. They advocate for the rights of the individuals that DDS serves. Self-advocate coordinators also assist individuals to understand their rights and responsibilities and help others advocate for themselves. Self-advocate coordinators support and coordinate self-advocacy groups, training, and other opportunities for individuals and staff across the state. As we wrap up the training, we will watch one more video that will put everything learned in this training into perspective for you.
I have the right
to be treated nicely all times as a person.
Have a clean place to live.
and good food for me.
I have the right.
I have the right to be able to go to my church that I want to, my temple.
To be able to go to the doctor when I'm sick.
To be able to have men and women help me in the way I talk, do things with my hands, act or feel, and if I need it.
I have the right
To be able to have people help me and teach me if I want.
To have time and place to go to be by myself.
To be able to call, write letters, or talk to anyone I want about anything I want.
I had my own face.
Be able to have men and women as friends.
or to be able to join in activities and things that help me grow and be the best person I can be. It's about me.
Be able to work and make money.
I have the right
Not to be hit, yelled at, cussed at, all names hurt me.
To be able to learn new things, make friends, and have activities to do and go out in my community.
be able to tell people what I want to be part of making plans or decisions about my life.
To ask someone help, to tell people how do I feel.
I have the right
Be able to use my money to pay for things that I want and I need with help if I need it.
be able to say yes or no
before people talk about what I do at work or home or look at my file.
Be able to complain or ask for changes if I don't like something without being afraid of getting in trouble.
Arguments I don't need, or else I'm not hurting myself either.
To vote and learn about laws in my community.
Say yes or no. Part of a study or spirit.
After we watch that video, I hope that you are left with some final thoughts to take back to your workplace. Remember some things we learned in training today. Every person deserves the right to make their own choices, receive dignity and respect, and be free from abusive or neglectful situation. If you witness or suspect abuse or neglect is taking place, report it. And lastly, a final reminder that you are a mandatory reporter 24/7, not just when you're at work. This is a requirement of your job at DDS and for every person providing supports to individuals funded by the department. Regardless of your title, you are a mandatory reporter. That means reporting abuse or neglect 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, not just when you're at work. It also means you don't have to have proof. You may be a witness, you saw or heard it. Even if you suspect it, you should report it. And if you hear about it from someone else, you must report it. It is not an option to report suspected abuse or neglect. As a mandatory reporter, your failure to report suspected abuse or neglect can be reported as neglectful itself and may lead to progressive discipline. Any and all types of discipline may be considered depending on the severity of the abuse or neglect that was not reported. To elaborate on the Connecticut General Statute 46A 11B, allegations should not be called in just because a supervisor tells an employee to do so or as means of covering one's own best interest. There must be reasonable cause to suspect abuse or neglect on part of the reporter. The reporter should be prepared to explain the reasonable cause to AID Central Intake and any other agencies as necessary as to why they think abuse or neglect occurred. Reasonable cause is not to discourage people from calling if they suspect abuse or neglect taking place. It is now time to take your Module 5 quiz. You must receive 100% on the quiz in order to move on to signing your training attestation form and mandatory reporter sign-off. If you have any questions, please contact the training division at DDS or a training representative at your agency for additional information. This training is property of the Connecticut Department of Developmental Services and should be used for training purposes only. This material should not be sold or used for profit. Thank you for your time today. If you have any follow-up questions, please contact dds.training@ct.gov.